Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. From time to time, I will attend the Festival of Homiletics, or as some have called it, the Tournament of Preachers. It's a wonderful opportunity to hear some of the best preachers across the nation, to hear their inspirational and informative messages, and even to look at how they do what they do. I know, you wish I had picked up more from them. Sorry, you're stuck with me. One year I attended, and since it happened to be in Nashville that year, we had some pretty stellar musical entertainment. Our key music leader, however, was a guy I had never heard of, and who hasn't made it big even yet. His name was Kyle Matthews, and one night he presented a song called "Been Through the Water." The song begins by telling of a young boy being baptized in the river, and then it goes on to tell what happened after that. The boy walked barefooted all the way home for dinner, and when they laughed at his muddy feet, he said, "I've been through the water, and I've come out clean, got new clothes to cover me, and you don't wear your old shoes on your brand new feet when you've been through the water." In subsequent verses, the song tells of that same young man facing temptation during a rough time in his marriage, which he resists by remembering how he was made new in baptism. And then finally, as an old man, when feeling pain, he draws comfort because he knows the way to heaven. The beauty of the song is, of course, that it speaks of how baptism changes one's life. This week we are talking and taking something of a tour of the Tabernacle in ancient Israel. We will see the vessels in their worship space, what they meant, and in many cases, how these things set the foundation for our own worship space today. And today we want to talk about the laver. The laver was a large bowl placed between the altar of bronze used for sacrifice that we talked about yesterday and the tent that housed the Ark of the Covenant and other furnishings. It was made entirely of bronze, and even though God didn't give specific dimensions for the bowl, it was clearly supposed to be large, and it was supposed to be filled with water. The water indicates its first purpose. The laver filled with water was supposed to remind them of how they had passed through the sea on dry ground. The water in the bowl was supposed to remind them of how God had acted to save them. This was a seminal moment in Israel's history. People might question and scoff at other gods and say, "When did they ever do anything for you?" But the people of Israel could say, right at the Red Sea, right at this point in our history, God acted to save us. The laver called that to remembrance whenever you came to worship, and that's so important. Maybe you remember how during those 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, how often the people forgot about God and what God had done and complained about God. And that's the thing about us too. Far too often we drift away and forget all the things God does for us daily. Far too often we complain about our lot and neglect to think about our blessings. We feel far away from God and don't consider that we were the ones who moved. With one look, the laver reminded them that they were God's people and God had acted to save them. In today's churches, you might think of the cross that hangs over the sanctuary. It is there as a reminder of what Christ has done for us. There with the altar, we are reminded of his sacrifice. We are reminded of his love and grace, and we don't dare forget. Before they entered the actual tent of the tabernacle, the priests would use the laver to wash their hands and feet. Israel had a big concern for ritual cleansing, and the laver helped them prepare as they came more directly into God's presence. Our baptismal font is a similar sight of cleansing as our sin is washed away and God claims us as God's own. In the past 10 years or so, I've heard a phrase that I just love to talk about our baptisms: being cleansed and living a life that has changed because of our baptisms. It's called walking wet. It means to let our baptisms shape who we are every day and in every way. Let's remember all that God has done. Walk wet. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.